Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Let's Taste with the Intrepid Wino. My name is James Garsbrook and I have been sent some more samples by the awesome guys at Out of Step Wine Co, which is Dave Chatfield and Nathan Reeves, who I had as guests on a sort of a two-part or double episode of the Vincast, my wine podcast. I do, of course, encourage you to listen to that after you see this video, but I've also had the great privilege to taste some Out of Step Wine Co wines here on Let's Taste previously. I'm very excited to look at one of the wines from the 2017 vintage and also a couple from 2016. I'm particularly excited to look at these wines because this year, thanks to Dave, in fact, he actually helped me find somewhere to make my wine this year, which I'm hoping to share some information about very, very soon. And so I shared winery space with Dave, and it was great to be able to, along with Rory Lane and Matt East, to sort of collaborate and share as we were all processing fruit, obviously myself in much smaller quantities than the other guys. But it was great, as I was, pressing or crushing fruit to show the guys what they thought, and also in turn kind of look at their stuff. So obviously take this opportunity to say thanks, guys, for all of your fantastic insights and experience, and looking forward to, of course, making one with you again next year. But onto the actual purpose of this edition, which is to look at some wines. So the first one I'm going to look at is the aforementioned 2017 vintage. It's a new wine and a very different label. And if you look the bottle, you probably wouldn't work out what the name of it. It's actually called Catbird 2017. I believe that it's a Sauvignon Blanc wine. It's also under cork, under a Diam, I'm assuming. It's possible that this might actually be a pre-release, a hand bottling. So let's have a look at how she looks. I'm always a big fan of the guys' Sauvignon Blanc. I think they make some of the best Sauvignon Blanc in the country. So a little bit of haze here. I would say that there's been very little filtering, if any. It has just a little bit of cloudiness to it. Wow, very, very wild. I think this might be the wine that Dave told me about, that I might have even tasted this during or just after fermentation. I think this is the one that they made completely whole bunch Sauvignon Blanc, which is a pretty wild method for white wine production in general, but particularly Sauvignon Blanc, because it has this kind of musky, spicy, lime bubblegum sort of thing going on. It's got this kind of herbal sort of really different. They're not your average aromatics, and doesn't resemble a lot of Sauvignon Blanc. No matter, I haven't really seen Sauvignon Blanc with these kinds of aromatics before, so I'm interested to see what it looks like on the palate. Let's taste. Interesting texture, interesting structure on the palate. Let's have a look at that. It's pretty different. It's quite tight. You do see some tannin, a little bit of bite to it. It's got this kind of electricity to it. It almost feels like it has a bit of a spritz yeah, it's fascinating. Like this kind of brambly sort of character. It's something that I often see in whole bunch Shiraz and Pinot Noir. It's so mind-bending to see this character with a white wine. It's so unusual. I think I need to keep looking at that wine. It's quite young. It probably needs to open up a little bit. I enjoy it, but I can't quite wrap my head around it at this stage. It's so left of centre for me as far as Sauvignon Blanc. So I think it's taken, you know, real guts to make a wine like this, and I'm pretty sure it's going to really change people's perceptions. I hope it's going to change people's perceptions about Sauvignon Blanc. Let's move on to the 2016 wines. Starting off with the Willowlake Vineyard Pinot Noir from the Arabella. Willowlake is in a more elevated part of the Yarra Valley, and subsequently, you know, being a slightly cooler site, a cooler part of the valley, you do get slightly more lifted, ethereal Pinot Noirs. I can't remember if I tasted a Pinot from Out of Step on Let's Taste. So colour-wise, you can see that it's not super intense, and it does have a lovely kind of burgundy sort of colour. Obviously, burgundy. It's not, you know, very dark. It's not purpley or black. Certainly lifted. Quite primary. It's very much in that raspberry, red cherry, fairly classic varietal Yarra Valley Pinot Noir. Very inviting. Let's taste. Looks a little bit hot. I think it's a product of a warm vintage. Whilst aromatically the fruit profile is still in that red spectrum, on the palate it's starting to move into darker fruits. And I think whilst I do like the freshness of it, it's a little bit too sort of juicy, dark. It's only 13.5, but just sort of, it looks warm. It's enjoyable, but I think I miss a little bit of crunch, a little bit of brightness. It's just sort of, it's a little bit sort of simple as far as the fruit. You know, it's a very good Pinot Noir. Recommended retail for that is $33. Yeah, it's reasonable. It's reasonable for the price, but I don't know. There's a lot of great Pinot coming out of the Yarra Valley these days. I don't know if I've seen much 2016, so I can't really say if that's a vintage specific character, but yeah, it's not really blowing my mind. Finally, also from 2016, we have from the Malakoff Estate Vineyard in the Pyrenees, which I believe is also where they get their Nebbiolo. It's where I got my Nebbiolo from this year. This is a Shiraz. Recommended retail for this is $32. Apparently the Malakoff Shiraz is some of the best in the Pyrenees. You can see straight away there's a big difference in colour, much darker, more intense. Dark and stormy, sort of black breeze. Some carob notes. Hints of some black licorice. Nice florals too. Nice taste. The spice is subtle in here. It's also quite late. It's deceptive. It's fresh for a Shiraz. The fruit profile is consistent with the aromatics on the palate. It is in that darker spectrum. It's got good freshness to it. Again, a little bit different for Shiraz. It's quite pleasant, very drinkable. It's very solid. It's definitely not showing any winemaking in there, no oak or anything like that. Well balanced. 14%, I think that carries the alcohol very, very well. And it's interesting kind of comparing that to the Pinot Noir, because Pinot Noir is 0.5% less in terms of alcohol, but looks sort of warmer than the Shiraz does. And possibly that's a varietal thing, possibly that's a vineyard and region thing as well. I think money-wise, like as far as nothing to disappoint. You pretty much are getting what you would expect. The Shiraz is winning for me at $32. I think that's really, really solid for the price. But the wine that probably is intriguing me the most is the Catbird, the Sauvignon Blanc, which retails for $28. I think for that price, it is well worth buying because it really is going to hopefully start some conversations. And I'd like to see more white wine produced like this. It's new and different, and who's to say whether it's good or bad? It's completely up to the individual. Another person might look at this and completely hate it. Someone else might love it and swear off any other kind of winemaking technique. So thanks obviously to Dave and Nathan for generously providing some samples for me to taste here on the Intrepid Wino YouTube channel. If you would like to have your wines profiled here on Let's Taste, please do get in contact with me at my website. I'm more than happy to share my impressions of your Australian or New Zealand wine. Thanks guys for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like button, share it on social media, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and why not leave a comment on some of the videos. I really do love hearing from people. Leave some feedback. Ask me a question if you'd like to have your question answered on another video. I'm open to any query you might have. And obviously you can follow me on social media at Intrepid Wino on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Come and visit me at intrepidwino.com. Lots of ways of getting in contact with me there. But until next time guys, cheers!